Hi everyone! Today I will talk about using of React and Office UI Fabric during development of your PCF controls. To understand how powerful this combination is, just take a look at the UCI interface. It is fast, responsive, looks modern, and it is built using React and Office UI Fabric. I will leave URL to this framework under this video.
In all of my previous videos, I used Visual Studio to write the code. In this video, I switched to VS Code because Visual Studio doesn't recognize React classes and shows multiple errors. If it's possible to use Visual Studio and I'm doing something wrong, or if it's required that I install some extension for Visual Studio, please leave a comment under this video. I prefer a consistent experience during development and don't like to switch between tools. But let's put my personal philosophy aside and get back to development. The idea of the control I will develop in this video was inspired by Sarah Lagerquist. Let's say I have an option set with 10 values to choose from, but on a particular form I need to have only 5 values available, and do it without any code involved, except the PCF code of course. I create the project for PCF control using the pacpcf init command. I run npm install to install all of required dependencies. To use React, I run following commands: npm install React, npm install types React, npm install React DOM, npm install types React DOM. To use the controls from Office UI Fabric, I run npm install Office UI Fabric React. After all packages are installed, I open project using VS Code. I add required inputs to control manifest input.xml file and run npm run script build command to rebuild manifest types.d.ts file. I add the file for filtered option set React class, import React and Office UI Fabric. I describe the properties of the control. Consider it like parameters for the class's constructor. I add to the parameters options property that contains the list of options available in the dropdown, the selected key property that has current value of the attribute, and then onSelected changed. This is a function that will run when the value of the dropdown has changed. The syntax of the control is a mixture of HTML and TypeScript. It looks unusual, but you will quickly get used to it during this process. Now I can switch to the index.ts file and implement the rest of the code. I add the available values private property. This is an array of numbers that contains the list of options to be shown in the dropdown. Now, in the init method, I add some code that gets and parses the value from the available values input property of the control. The next part is how to render the control. Rendering will be called from two places: from init, when the control is initialized for the first time, and from update view, when the bound property is changed so the control has to be re-rendered. I add a method called renderControl with context as a parameter. On the first step, I retrieve current value from the context using context.parameters.value.raw property. Next, I create an array of options filtering those based on the options available in available values. And then I create dropdown properties variable and populate all members. I will leave the implementation of onSelected changed blank at the moment and get back to it later. Of the method is the creation of the control and rendering it. In order to do that, I need the container, so I declare a container property and fill it in init method. Now, when the renderControl method is completed, I add it to init and update view methods. To avoid memory leaks, I add some unmounting code to the destructor of the component. Now it's time to complete the onSelected changed handler. The main purpose of this method is to notify platform that the value of the dropdown was changed by a user from the UI. In order to do that, the notifyOutputChanged method has to be called. I declare two additional properties, current value and notifyOutputChanged. I add initialization of notifyOutputChanged property in init method and add the code that stores value of the option selected to the current value property. And the very last step is adding of the logic for the getOutputs method. Before I test the control, I will add some code to make it work in harness properly. By default, when the option set is rendered in harness, its metadata consists of option A, option B, and option C with 0, 1, and 2 codes. By default, the value for strings is val. To work around this, I added some code that replaces the standard val value with hard-coded 1 and 2 values. Now let's try to see how it works in harness using npm start command. As you can see, everything worked the way it was expected. So now I can switch to tests in real CDS environment. I will omit the part of the process where I pack the control into the solution and import it into the CDS instance. Let's look to see how to configure it in environment and see how it works there. I open solution that contains account entity and choose the main form. I add one more industry attribute to see the difference between standard and custom control side by side and configure custom control to show option set values from 1 to 5 only. After that, I save form and publish changes, navigate to accounts and open account form to see different versions of the same attribute that are shown using standard and custom control. Thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like and post a comment if you have one. See you the next time.